Hello, my name's Jacob, and we are back talking Oscar predictions. Hope you enjoyed our Best Picture video. I am once again joined by Mikey Walsh, aka Movie Mike Reviews, and in this video, we are discussing director and screenplay Oscar predictions. So probably not going to be too dissimilar to where we land on Best Picture, but I think screenplay especially always opens up for a couple of interesting left field picks to come through. And director in particular, it feels like it's actually becoming a crowded field.
Yeah, very much so.
I've got at least 8 names here that I somewhat confident could get in. So at the top, I feel like we're both going to have Sean Baker and Brady Corbett. Myself, yes. Baker, yourself, Brady Corbett.
Yep.
What's your case for Corbett winning over Baker at this stage?
I think, and this will spoil screenplay, I think Baker wins screenplay.
I mean, so do I, but I'm just not splitting it.
I think it makes more sense as well. Given the fact that, like, Anora, like, not to say that Anora is a poorly directed film. It's not. It's a very well-directed film. But I was more impressed by the writing in the film than the directing in the film. And so if I was looking at the kind of splitting my votes, I kind of look at Corbett and I go, that film is, like, I think The Brutalist is just a better directed film than Anora. And I think it would make sense. And so I think if we're kind of beginning to split awards here and there, and some years the Oscars does that, and other years are like, nope, all the awards are going to Everything Everywhere All at Once, and we don't care. But I think Brutalist, I think it's just a more, like, the direction in the film is just so much more forefront, and that's like one of the major aspects. Whereas I think that in Anora, not to say that the direction isn't on the forefront, but when I watched Anora, like, basically my first reaction, like, when I watched Anora, was like, that was great. It didn't strike me as a best director winning kind of film.
Yeah, and look, I actually kind of agree with you. I like Anora more, and I still think The Brutalist is probably the bigger directing achievement.
Yeah.
But Sean Baker, one of my favorite directors, and he's a director who people are crying out for recognition. And I think people might just galvanize around the narrative for him for Anora. The split absolutely could happen and probably would be the best result. In the end,
I see that galvanizing happening to the point where, he wins screenplay, and that's the way he gets his laurels. Because again, like, people say, Corbett's not as well known as Baker. Baker's been working for longer, and I go, well, like, the Daniels kind of came out of not so much came out of nowhere, but the Daniels won for Everything Everywhere All at Once. If we look at some of the previous Best Director winners the last couple of years, I also think that Brady Corbett just fits more along those lines
in terms of the type of film it is.
Type of film, type of director, that kind of thing. I think that it just makes more sense for Brady Corbett to take director.
Yeah, no, again, I'm talking like it's a 51-49 sort of split here, and a split would be a nice result, but I think they're the top two, and I will be shocked if someone outside of those two wins the award.
Like, I think it's more likely maybe that Baker takes DGA. I could see that happening because Baker's a more established director, and so he's more well-known in the guild. I could see that happening, but I could see Corbett winning BAFTA. And so again, like, your two major
Corbett could definitely win Globe too, because the film has such a European flavor, and he has worked with so many European directors over the years as an actor.
Although the Globes, pre-being, as awesome as they are now, they still liked the Florida Project and went in for the Florida Project. So it'll be interesting to see. But that's the top two. Who have you got at third?
Denis Villeneuve. Look, I'm not gonna let what happened last time scare me. It's definitely in the back of the mind. Like, there is still a universe in which they once again say, we don't have to do that. But it would be crazy if you didn't get in.
It would. You would hear me react that, like, when the nominations are coming out from Adelaide.
Yeah.
Like, in the background of your reaction video, you will hear me screaming from Sydney if Denis Villeneuve is not nominated for Dune Part 2.
Crazy if they decide that both Dune movies directed themselves. Absolutely wild. 10 tech nominations. Who put all that together? No one. I guess the wind did it.
Yeah. I think if Denis doesn't get in, and again, they're like, Warner Brothers are pushing Dune Part 2. You've got Nolan out there campaigning for Denis for Best Director. Like, Warner Brothers are doing all they can to make sure that this doesn't miss director when it did the first time. And I think part of the reason it missed the first time is because they thought it was such a shoo-in that they didn't really push it for director. They just kind of thought it was a given.
Well, I think maybe people didn't vote for it for the same reason. Maybe people were like, oh, Dune's obvious. I'll throw someone else a nomination.
Yeah. Whereas now, I think there's those people who go, oh, well, he didn't get in last time, so we need to make sure he gets in this time. So
yeah, and while I don't think this is going to win more awards than the first one, I do think most people generally agree that it's a better movie than the first one, and it's a step up, and it's more satisfying and fulfilling, not just on an aesthetic front, but on a storytelling front. So it would be outrageous if he didn't get in for this one. And then the 4 and 5 spots are where you can have a bit of fun, I think, which is what I kind of am doing now. It seems most people seem absolutely convinced that Edward Berger's getting in, whereas I'm not. I don't have him in.
Neither. I've got him at 7th.
I've got him 8th.
Yeah,
and like I think he could get in. Absolutely,
he could get in, but he, like, Conclave was good. Like, I think he'll probably get a BAFTA nom. I mean, he got a BAFTA nom for All Quiet on the Western Front, but he didn't get the Oscar nomination for All Quiet on the Western Front.
And this film I don't think this film's necessarily bigger than Western Front. It's not smaller. It's in terms of its status as an Oscar contender, but I think Western Front was probably closer to being a Best Picture winning type movie.
Again, All Quiet on the Western Front won Best Picture at the BAFTAs, and went on to win a bunch of Oscar. So, like,
I think the direction
not getting in for All Quiet is like Villeneuve not getting in for Dune.
Yeah, it was outrageous. But I don't think Conclave is more of like a writing and editing type film. It's not as big a directorial achievement as Western Front. If it ends up being that like top 3-4 level Best Picture, it might just happen. It's dependent on other contenders. But I'm thinking about the way the directors branch thinks
exactly.
And they like their artsy picks. They like their foreign picks, and there are some juicy options here. So who do you have in the 4th spot?
I have Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys.
I have him 5th. So and that's maybe it's one of those movies that I'm rooting for without having seen. Yeah. So maybe there's something wishful about it, because again, the person I took out for him is a bit
people have
risky.
Compared it to Zone of Interest in terms of being a little bit more experimental, or to, like, Tree of Life. Both of those got nominations. You think about someone like Lee Isaac Chung getting in for Minari. Like, I feel like that's a similar pick. You've got, even Tar is, like Todd Field. Like, I think Ramel Ross.
He's not necessarily a foreign pick, but he's a Western filmmaker doing something to push the medium forward.
Yes.
Yeah, and by all accounts, he does that with this movie. Yeah. So that's one I do. I've felt kind of good about having him in all year. If it does drop off as a contender, I'll probably have to take him out for who I have at 6th.
He is known to the Academy because his documentary, How County This Morning This Evening, was nominated. So, like, they do also know who he is.
Yeah, he's not a nobody. And then rounding out my direct list, I have 4th, who I said earlier I'm confident in, is Carly Farjat for The Substance. I think just because all year I feel like we've been starved of a female nominee option. And is there a more perfect choice?
No. She's the only female in my top 10. Yeah. I've got her at 6. I've got her right on that cusp. I could see it happening. Again, I can see her getting the BAFTA. But then again, so did who directed Titan?
Julia Ducournau.
Julia Ducournau. Julia Ducournau got that BAFTA nom, and I was like, oh my goodness, she's going to get the Oscar. I'm like, she's not going to get the Oscar. But it feels like, I think that a BAFTA nom is very likely, but The Substance is probably going to come along in a lot of other categories. So, and this whole...
Again, this totally hinges on it getting into Best Picture, so it makes sense. You don't have in picture, you don't have it in director. I have it in picture, I have to have her in director.
Yeah, like last year, we had Greta Gerwig, who didn't get in, but Justine Triet did get in. But the year prior to that, there wasn't a female director. But the 2 years prior to that, it was a female director who won. We had Chloe Zhao for Nomadland and Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog. So I think it's... Yeah, I think Coralie Farjat, like, she's sitting right there on that cusp. When I saw the film at the Sydney Film Festival, never in a million years did I think that this was going to be a potential Best Director nominee.
But it also makes sense.
I would love it to be so much. But when I saw the film at Sydney Film Festival, I immediately was like, oh yeah, I could see this getting a BAFTA nom for director. And I see it. I can see it.
Yeah, and it's not off-putting to people like the way Titan is. It's off-putting to people in a fun way. But there are definitely other names here. You've got Russelloff in, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
who,
I've got Russelloff
again,
in at 5.
is absolutely the type of person they would nominate. He has maybe the best narrative behind him of anyone here.
Yeah,
and he would be so deserving.
Very much that kind of Glazer or Trier or Östlund for Triangle of Sadness, or Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, or Vinterberg for Another Round. Like, it's Pavelkovsky for Cold War. Like, the director's branch just does that, and I could see them doing it for Seed of the Sacred Fig.
So my risk here is not having a foreign film in my 5 for director, but I do think Farjat and Ross kind of fill that slot to a degree, especially Farjat being French. But the one I took out for them, and this is like a really, really tight 6 for me, is Jacques Audiard, who I have 6. And like, again, I feel like he's really strong director contender, but I also think the director's branch might see through that movie's bullshit a little bit.
Yeah. Because after this, we're going to be chatting about screenplay. And I don't think Emilio Perez...
I don't think it's strong in screenplay either.
I don't think it's strong in screenplay either, because I think, I think the writers are going to see through the veneer of that film. And so I don't think Audiard gets into director. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I think he absolutely could.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I don't think that he will. So again, there's so many of these kind of like quasi international picks. So Farge is French, but the film's in English. Edward Berger is German, but the film's in English. Ramel Ross is kind of making this film that's very experimental, but he is American. Russelov, and then Audiard.
Even Brady Corbett directs his films in a very European sort of way, to a degree.
Yeah. No, have you got anyone else?
All right, those 8 are the ones really that I think are a shot.
Okay.
And then the other one who I think...
I've got Audiard at 9, so I've got someone else at 8.
Okay, who do you have, pray tell?
I have John M. Chu for Wicked.
All right, well, I have him 9, so he is the next in that batch. But he's Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick, I think. He will get director nomination somewhere.
He's Greta Gerwig for Barbie.
Yeah, but nowhere near as good.
No, but
I like John M. Chu. I just don't really like Wicked.
But yeah, so John M. Chu, and John M. Chu is known in terms of. And again, there is that part of the coast. Look, John M. Chu is also that little bit foreign, and you kind of go, well, is this their foreign pick? Do they go for John M. Chu? But I do firmly believe that
Director's Branch will not do it. They will not do Wicked.
I don't think it'll get that Oscar nom. I think it's very likely to get Critics' Choice nominated.
Won't get BAFTA.
I don't think it's going to get BAFTA.
I don't even think it would get Globe.
No, I think it's going to get Globe, and I think it'll get DGA.
Yeah, with the cool new foreign Globes with so many options. Does he really get in over Russelloff, Audiard, Ramel Ross?
I think Wicked still gets Globe, because I think that Wicked is win competitive for comedy musical.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
I think that, and I think DGA will go for it, because they went for Kaczynski.
Yeah.
It
will not happen at the Oscars.
I don't think it's happening at the Oscars.
But I do have him 9th, in that group as well. And then other names, if it was that top 3 we thought it would be, you could throw Greg Quidar as an outside shot for Sing Sing. But
Greg Quidar is one of the 10.
So we have the exact same top 10 in a different order. And then the other names are really just foreign names that you throw in because you need some info, like Almodovar, Paul Kapadia for All We Imagine Is Light, if people decided they wanted to recognize that movie after it didn't get submitted.
Yeah, I could see the BAFTAs going for that, but I don't think the Oscars will do it.
Guadagnino for Challenges, Robert Eggers Nosferatu would be probably deserving, but will not happen. Beyond that, I'm Still Here, Walter Salles
for Complete Unknown. But
it's really that top 8, and with John M. Chu as someone who will be around, but I don't think will get in. But
and then there's the elephant in the room, or should I say the sharks in the Colosseum, which is Ridley Scott.
I didn't even write him down.
It's such an unserious suggestion that it genuinely damages credibility. And so the fact that Variety and Clayton Davis still has Ridley Scott.
Variety are insane, man. I keep seeing Variety get it wrong every year. I don't really understand what they're methodologies.
Yeah, like, well, it's hope dicting, and it's being like, no, and it's like, but you're not listening. You're in an echo chamber. So for anyone who has seen, on social media, on Instagram or X or whatever, that Ridley Scott is, front runner for Gladiator 2. Variety are the only people that are putting him forward as front runner. No one else thinks that he's a legitimate contender, and he's not. Like, not to say that the film is badly directed. It is a very, like at 86 for Ridley Scott.
It gets the bloody job done for what it is. But if you think he's getting in, you do not know the directing branch at all. It would have to be a top 5 movie in picture for that to even be considered.
Now, we didn't talk about it in our picture video, but Blitz.
It's gone. It's
not happening. And so anyone who's still holding out hope for Steve McQueen,
him and Scott were the ones I just took off my list because it's Steve
McQueen is like, and I think that is fascinating given the fact that prior to Blitz coming out, people thought that McQueen might be winning.
Yeah.
And then they saw Blitz and was like, oh no.
People just don't like it.
I don't hate the film. I just think it's very meh.
It's so pedestrian.
Are the BAFTAs going to go for it?
Even that, they could, but what would I don't know.
I think it'll do quite well in the text of the BAFTAs, and I think it could get into supporting actress.
Could get Saoirse Ronan, yeah.
There's a couple of places where I could see it show up, but I think that's because it's a British film, and so I think the BAFTAs will embrace it more so. I just don't see that carrying across to the Academy. So yeah, I don't think Steve McQueen is a legitimate for director. But we want to move to screenplay.
And that's why the awards race is fun, because we get to see these people fall off the cliff and then come out of nowhere. You talked to me a month ago, I probably wouldn't give The Substance a shot, and now I've put it in a bunch of categories. The cosmic ballet goes on, Michael.
Cosmetic ballet, if we're talking about The Substance.
All right, screenplay. Once again, we can go in circles and have this Anora and Brutalist conversation, but I think this is one where we both agree Anora's the likely winner here.
Yeah, number 1, Brutalist number 2.
And if it's going to be a split, this is the way it's going to be a split. But I just want to say The Brutalist has a phenomenal screenplay.
It does. Oh, it very much does.
To the point where maybe it is hurt by how great the other technical elements of it, because it is thought of more as a style directing aesthetic picture than it is a writing picture, but it is brilliantly written from top to bottom. The dialogue in it is so listenable and captivating.
Same thing happened last year with Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah, Oppenheimer is one of the best Nolan screenplays.
Very well written film, but American Fiction stood out more as a righty movie. I even think last year, Killers of the Flower Moon, also very well written. But I think that there are some people. And there can kind of be this vibe when it comes to writing films that you want the writing winners to be the punchier, tighter films, as opposed to the longer, more kind of meaty, more astute films. And so, yeah, I'm not at all surprised that Oppenheimer didn't end up winning.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Won everything else.
Yeah. When you look at it, you go, this is a very,
Probably should have won that too.
Yeah. I don't think
Things should have won
bad,
that, but I like American Fiction, but Oppenheimer and Poor Things both better films there.
I mean, I think Barbie,
absolutely,
And I was one of the people who was like, Barbie was an adapted screenplay, and anyone who said that it wasn't an adapted screenplay was stupid. I'm sorry, it is an adapted screenplay, and I think could have won. Anyway, that's last year's Oscars. This year's Oscars: Anora, Brutalist, 1 and 2. What have you got at 3?
Well, just on that note about the more tight and righty and punchy movies, A Real Pain fits that to a T. And fuck if it wasn't against the 1 and 2 for Best Picture, you really think that could win. In a lot of other years, that would look like a winner. I'm not actually saying it can't.
No. It
could happen.
We're talking about the original screenplay category for this year, but it feels a little bit like the adapted screenplay category for last year.
Could do an American Fiction.
Hitters, and I go, does A Real Pain pull an American Fiction?
Yeah, and it would be again a case where I wouldn't vote for it over Anora and The Brutalist, but it's still a really, really great script.
But what I think is really crucial here is that it's Cord Jefferson was a writer-director who won for his screenplay. He was nominated for director. So if Jesse Eisenberg wins for writer, but he's nominated for director, that would be interesting. But I think that there's just such a trend that if you wrote and directed your film and you're an Oscar Best Picture contender, you get into screenplay.
Yeah, and especially in original, adapted, there's a bit more. You'll have a lot of writers and stuff, but original, they love their writer directors.
Yeah.
God, it really is exactly like last year, a righty film, not a director against the 1 and 2 in Best Picture. Yep. Wow. Yep. Maybe I am rethinking things a little bit, but God, I'll be surprised if Honora doesn't win this. But yeah, a real pain.
I'd be very surprised if Honora doesn't win, but
definitely a big shot here. And it would be like even the nomination will just be great to see Eisenberg recognized, because I didn't see his debut feature, but by all accounts, he really has like grown and improved as a filmmaker with this, and I'm excited to see what else he has in store. All right, now I'm finally on your team with Seed of a Sacred Fig. I think that is a lot. Yes. A lot of people don't have that in for screenplay, but that is the one category where I've really, even if it can't do picture and director, that's the one thing where I've really been clinging to it. I think there's just a spot there for it. It's still, even if it misses all these other big nominations, it's still at least number 2 in foreign language. So I think I'll be surprised if this doesn't at least get rewarded in screenplay for Russell.
And when I look at what I've got after Seed of the Sacred Fig, I go, these are films that they're really just kind of like filling out the category. And
I think there are 3 other serious contenders here that I'm having a hard time deciding between.
I'm not saying that they're unserious contenders, but I just go, like, the top 3 is so locked in, and then I go, Seed of the Sacred Fig just would be a fantastic nomination. And I look at some other stuff and I go, yeah, I think Seed of the Sacred Fig. But this might be me hope predicting. When I saw Seed of the Sacred Fig at the Sydney Film Festival, I immediately put it in for picture, director, screenplay, and international feature, and I haven't touched it since. And part of me wants to just never touch it, and then if I'm proven right, I get all the glory, and I can boast about that. And another part of me goes, is this like last year, where I was so confident that Barbie was going to win and Poor Things wasn't, that I let that kind of shadow the truth. I was in denial.
Well, I guess I'll jump in because I'm being a bit more level-headed about not having it in every category, and I'm still pretty convinced about it being in screenplay. And again, I love the film as much as you do. I had the same reaction when I saw it. This has to be a player, and it's more I'm judging off the reaction to it has been kind of muted. And a lot of people, even critics, have found faults with the movie. It's not like this Drive My Car, lights out, beloved film that I think it needs to be. But screenplay, I do feel really good about it. And if they can't quite squeeze Russell off into the creative director race, it's a good way to recognize him.
What I was going to say. If they can't squeeze him into director, then this is how they actually nominate him, because there's that whole thing of say the Sacred Fig gets into international feature for Germany, that nomination goes to Germany, not to Russell. And so it would be great to have him be an Oscar-nominated individual because of his screenplay. Hopefully it's also for directing, but if they can only squeeze in one, I think original screenplay makes a lot of sense.
And then I've got Coralie Fajar for The Substance. These two films that are battling for a lot of nominations for me.
I bumped The Substance up only a couple of days ago to putting it in at 5th.
So screenplay is the only one where we align on these two films.
I think we have the exact same top 5.
Absolutely. Yep, we do.
Yeah. Yep. I will say this. I've seen The Substance twice, and both times I went, this is a fun movie, but I got more out of the direction and the editing than the screenplay.
Completely agree with you, but that just doesn't seem to matter. No. And I think also people are more just rewarding for the concept.
Yes.
And how fun it is and well-structured it is.
Fun films get into screenplay. Again, a lot of my examples at the moment are from adapted, but Top Gun Maverick got an adapted screenplay nomination.
Exactly. And this has probably more meat on its bones than that, as unsubtle as it is. You've got the whole message about Hollywood and body image and
there
everything.
Are some memorable jokes and some well-written lines in The Substance. And I would love to see. And I think The Substance, I think getting into screenplay is almost more likely than some of the other categories.
Definitely. I mean, one screenplay at Cannes.
Picture, I still think,
Which was, at the time, I kind of just thought, did they just give it that because they wanted to give it something? Because it seems way more of a directing movie. But, it's holding on. It got in screenplay at the Astros. It seems to be
And it is a film that is saying something. It's not a shallow screenplay. Just because it's not a super wordy movie doesn't mean that it's not a well-written movie in terms of its concept and the way that it then developed that concept through its story.
And it's an original screen. It's an original fucking idea that people have really, really latched onto, to the point where I've had people like say, "Hey, who would you turn into if you took the substance?" Like, people have discussed like the substance is entering the cultural vernacular as a thing. Like, it's,
I do love, that's awesome. And as an aside, one of my favorite things is the fact that the word vernacular is not in the common vernacular.
That's a good word.
Being what we use to describe the common vernacular.
Yep.
But that's a hobby horse. What else have you got as like a maybe?
All right. Well, I think there's a movie that I've seen a lot of people have in over Sacred Fig, and it's one I would love to see get into, and that's Hard Truths by Mike Leigh. Not everyone has it in, but I've seen like some particular pundits really believe in this for this and for actress. And I love Hard Truths. It's one of my favorite films of the year. And I absolutely think it could happen if the substance or Sacred Fig just aren't what we think they are. But on the other hand, they do feel like bigger movies than Hard Truths in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying it needs actress to get into screenplay. Mike Leigh films have gotten lone screenplay nominations before.
Yeah.
And people aren't quite as high on this as they are on some of his best work. I think they're wrong. I think it's a phenomenal movie.
Same.
So it's definitely one that's around. And again, it's a writer, director. He's a veteran. He's beloved. It would make a whole lot of sense as a nomination.
It's a shoo-in for the BAFTA.
Yeah.
There's no way this doesn't get a BAFTA screenplay nom. And so, again, because of just the voter overlap between the Oscars and the BAFTAs, I would not be at all surprised. I've got it at 9th. So I've got it there.
Oh.
But I don't have it that high.
That's interesting because, like, really, that and one other film are the only ones I actually even believe in. So I'm curious. So what do you have 6?
I don't know if I see it getting WGA. And I don't think I see it getting Critics' Choice.
I also don't really care about that because the Oscars just like Mike Leigh.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I've still got it in contention, but I just, they do like Mike Leigh. But again, because the general consensus is that this isn't one of his best, even though we both think that it is, I don't think it's
one of his best, but I still think it's like a 9 out of 10 movie. Like, he just has so many incredible movies, but what do you have next up?
So at 6, I've got Challenges.
Well, that's my 7. That and Hard Truths are really the only ones here I believe in. So
I think Challenges gets into WGA. I think that I would not be surprised to see Challenges start to show up a lot in original screenplay. Because again, I don't think it's not getting director. It's probably not getting any acting nominations, but screenplay, I've always thought it could get into original screenplay. And the big thing was always the fact that Justin Kuritsky's also had Queer, and people were like, oh, they're going to nominate Queer over Challenges. But Queer is kind of a non-starter outside of maybe actor for Craig. So I go, well, let's give Kuritsky's his laurels for Challenges.
Exactly.
And he was nominated last year for Past Lives.
And to represent him for his body of work, including the Potion Seller YouTube video, absolutely iconic.
You have to include a clip of that right now. Just comes up on the screen. It's got it. You got it.
If I can be bothered, we'll see. But yeah, so that's one I definitely believe in. Maybe it would hinge on its resurgence and it would need those other tech noms to. Yeah. I don't know if it's a lone screenplay nomination type movie, whereas I feel like Hard Truths could be.
Yeah, Challenges is a film that I can see doing very well with a lot of guilds. I can see it getting an ACE nomination. I can see it getting potentially ASC. So, not ASC. Whatever the cinematography nomination is. I can see it getting. I could see it getting some of the.
I don't know.
It is ASC. American Society of Cinematographers. I'm trying to remember what the S is. I could see it getting ASC. I could see ACE, so ACE. I could see it getting WGA. Like, I can just see it popping up in some places, and I kind of go...
It would deserve all these things.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen whether, these big bodies go for it. So there's the other movie I have here that I think is fake news still is September 5, which a lot of people kind of have in.
I've got September 5 at 8, so there's a film I've got above it.
That's my 8th as well. So what's your other one floating around up there?
I got Saturday Night still.
Yes, that's my 9th. That's one I don't believe in it for the Oscar at all. I think it'll get critics nominations. It might get something. Critics' Choice I could definitely see happening for it, but overall I just don't know if people like it enough.
Like, everyone who has seen the film likes it, but just not a lot of people.
I thought it was pretty mediocre, to be honest.
You're not everyone. You're generally speaking, but I do think, look, Reitman is known by the Academy, and it's been a while since he's been embraced. Like the last time would have been Up in the Air in 2009. So it's been a while. But this is probably best received film since Up in the Air. So maybe this is his return. And I could see.
That's kind of sad that that's his best received film since Up in the Air. So it was received decently.
Yeah.
I love Up in the Air though. Like I used to be such a big Reitman head back in the day.
I was going to say, because his last couple of films, he had Ghostbusters, he had The Front Runner, he had Labor Day.
The king of failed Oscar bait, if I say so myself.
But I think I've got Challenges at 6, Saturday Night at 7, September 5th at 8, Hard Truths at 9.
Yeah, so same films, different order. Again, it's like it's pretty much you could poke a stick at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. What have you got at 10? Do you have something at 10?
I mean, I have 2 other films written down, but really beyond that 9, I don't actually think anything has a shot. Like it's weird. Like Adapted feels weaker in terms of the what could get nominated pool, but Original feels like there's way less depth in terms of options. But like His Three Daughters is another one I have written down. I think it's gonna get campaigned, but I just don't know if it's gonna pull off. I would nominate it. I think it's one of the best films of the year.
No, I would love, like, I'm hoping that it gets the Indie Spirit nom this week. I would love that personally. The film that I've got at 10 is Blitz again because I've
took that out.
Like, and that's like it's at 10. I don't believe in the film, but because I think that it could get a BAFTA nom. But I've got Hard Truths at 9. Like, I think that's more likely for the BAFTA nom. But if I'm looking at what precursors are going to happen, it's like, look, I think because I love His Three Daughters. I don't think it's getting a WGA.
I think if His Three Daughters was made by like Noah Baumbach or something, it would be talking about it for a win. Like, I think it is that good.
I think also if Netflix had not dumped it when they did, but if they held it for like December, like if they'd pushed it later, I think that would have been better. But
I love that movie so much. And then that's about it. I mean, I wrote another Hope Dick, and I just wrote down A Different Man because I want to mention how fucking good it is. And again, it's another great original concept movie. And it's something I could see getting like Indie Spirit and things of that ilk, but it's not going to come off at the end. It's like another dream scenario type.
Actually, good original screenplays like Memoir of a Snail or Dating. Like, both of those would be great nominations, but I don't think they're going to happen. Although I do like the fact that Memoir of a Snail, IFC Films, who have got that in the States, they've actually sent out the screenplay to people as part of the FYC package. So
okay, that's cool.
Which is fun. All right, Adapted.
This category makes me sad because I've kind of had Sing Sing number 1 the whole time, and I've finally had to give up on it. Yeah. Which is so annoying because it's
number 1 is
Conclave. Yeah. And that's a great script. Like, it's not like I'm not like, oh, fucking Conclave, but like it's good. Sing Sing, it's so good.
I've got Sing Sing at number 2.
So do I. But it's also the type of thing that could miss if it really falls off.
I look at other things and adapt and I just don't see it missing.
Yeah, it does drop off a fair bit. But Conclave makes sense as a winner. I know it's not the director of the film that wrote it, which can hurt, but most of these other contenders are either not the director or the director sharing a writing credit with someone else. So it's a good clean. You can give the award to one person, Peter Strawn. And it's like, it's a really propulsive screenplay. It is probably the standout element of that movie, and people are really liking it. It's making money. It's entertaining. It's old school. And it doesn't maybe fit in with the current blueprint of the type of films that win screenplay, but there's also a whole lot about it that does make complete sense. Yeah,
like the last 2 films to win adapted screenplay that weren't from their directors were Call Me By Your Name and The Imitation Game.
Jeez, it's been that long.
And both of those, like Imitation Game especially,
that's a big
conclave.
Yeah.
It was very conclave coded.
Both films have amazing scores.
Yeah. And so I think that I think Conclave winning adapted screenplay just makes a lot of sense. And again, Conclave is a movie I don't think it's win competitive anywhere else. And so this is where they get to give it something and be like, yay, we also like your movie. And now you can say it's an Oscar winning movie.
A lot of people are convinced that Ralph Fiennes is going to win, and those people are dumb. But
I can see it happening.
I can see it, but like I wouldn't put him top 2 or anything.
Like, I don't think he's going to win SAG, but Could he win BAFTA?
He could win BAFTA for sure. Let's to be continued. But yeah, points we agree. Conclave seems like a really robust choice for the win right now. I wouldn't call it locked because a lot's to play out and we don't know how.
Nothing is ever locked until we see the nominations.
Usually foreign language is, but most years. Anyway. Third, I have Nickel Boys for basically all the reasons I said. I rate it in director. It's an adaptation of what's supposed to be a very acclaimed and important book and an important historical period. And it's written by the director. By all accounts, it's very good. It's just whether the Academy aren't pleb filtered by it. And I don't think they will be.
No, neither. And I've had Nickel Boys kind of in all year for adapted screenplay. And I think that's part of the reason why, before we had any images or any idea of what this film was, we knew that it was based on a book that was very well received. And so that's kind of the fact that it's an adaptation of a really acclaimed source material is kind of what propelled it into a lot of people's consciousness as a potential Oscar contender before it even went to any festivals and things. And so I think that, it just makes a lot of sense as an adapted screenplay contender.
And then fourth, I have Dune Part 2 because the first one got in even without director, and this movie's better. Yeah,
I've got it at fifth. Yeah. And again, I think that, it seems very likely to me that Dune Part 2 gets in. Again, I could see it maybe missing, but I just doubt that's going to happen.
Now, surely, since it's so low in picture for you, you don't have Emilia Perez in here.
I've got Emilia Perez at 6.
Yeah, so do I. So what's your fourth?
I've got A Complete Unknown.
I've got Wicked.
I've got 9.
But there's
anywhere near the screenplay.
No, but if they want to put in one of the musicals, I think it has a better shot than Emilia Perez. I genuinely do.
Yeah. I have thoughts. What do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about Complete Unknown first or Wicked first?
Well, Complete Unknown, I kind of don't really believe in as a screenplay at all either.
You want me to pitch it to you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I don't have a pitch for Wicked. This is one of my famous vibes-based predictions, but
So A Complete Unknown is an adapted screenplay from a book called Dylan Goes Electric. So it's particularly adapting. It's not just one of those womb to tomb biopics where Anthony McCartan has come in and read a Wikipedia article and gone, cool, here's my screenplay.
No, it's more Steve Jobs type situation. Let's take a specific moment
this is looking
in
at
a career.
Particular time in Dylan's life. And it's one of the things that has been cited by some people there might be a screenplay nom here. And it's one of those things where I go, look, if it gets into actor, and I come with other categories, screenplay just one of them look, I can see it kind of happening. Now, people go, music biopics don't tend to get into screenplay. And that is very true.
But neither do musicals, so you could use that as a knock against Wicked.
But also, most music biopics aren't adapted screenplays. They're running an original. So Bohemian Rhapsody was an original screenplay. I Want to Dance with Somebody. A lot of them are original. This was an adapted screenplay. And so I'm just, I've got it at 4th. Wicked. You made the comment that musicals don't get in. West Side Story didn't. Les Mis didn't.
Sometimes they do, though. And look, I think Wicked...
When was the last musical that got in?
La La Land?
That was an original screenplay.
Oh, well, I'm just talking screenplay in general, not speaking about adapted specifically.
Which is why I think Emilia Perez...
Chicago.
Which is
And Wicked is probably the biggest Best Picture contender as a musical since La La Land and Chicago.
Yeah, which I get. But two things. First thing, Emilia Perez, it's an adapted screenplay, but it's adapted from it
was like an opera libretto or some shit.
Yeah, it was an opera libretto that Audiard wrote himself. So it's still kind of in the original-ish.
It's like a Whiplash type. It's adapted.
It's a Moonlight. It
was
started as an unpublished play that then he turned into a movie. So Emilia Perez started as this opera libretto, which has now been turned into a movie. So it's adapted, but no one really knows what it's from, which is why I give it. And again, because it doesn't feel like a traditional musical, it's got some slightly different genres kind of going on.
But it's also so flawed, and so many people recognize that even the people who love it kind of recognize that the writing isn't the strongest element of it.
Yeah. which is why I would say, though, with Wicked, when Wicked opened on Broadway, the biggest critique of it was its book, as in its stage play. Its stage book. Wicked is bemoaned for being very shallow and not developing its characters. Fantastic music, Stephen Schwartz is fantastic, but the actual book was weak. It's adapted from another book, which is slightly it's different. So again, I don't think that Wicked could not get into adapted screenplay. But I think that musicals don't get in. I think Wicked is kind of known for not having a great screenplay or like a great.
And I've seen people say it almost improves elements.
Well, that's why I was so excited when they announced that Wicked was going to be 2 parts, because I was like, oh, finally they'll actually be able to develop characters, and I do think that the movie does that. So
I don't, but I know a lot of people do. Yeah. So,
have you seen the stage play?
No, I never. Okay. This movie was my first ever experience with Wicked.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't really care for it.
Yeah. Having seen the stage musical, I think that Wicked is a huge improvement. And so whilst I go, yes, this is better, I don't think it is awards worthy.
No, it's not, but that's never stopped the Oscars from nominating something.
Yeah, I know. But I just think, I'm not saying that, again, Wicked is in my top 10. I've got it at 9, but I don't have it at 4.
No, I have a fifth. Dune's fourth. Dune's fourth. Come on. This isn't me saying Wicked's getting in. That's my hot take. This is me saying I have Wicked 5th right now because I don't really trust anything else more than it. And in terms of musicals, I do think it is like a much bigger contender than Emilia Perez just across the board. But again, A Complete Unknown definitely made a good case for it. There's one other movie I am kind of looking out for as a left field resurgence and like a fun type thing.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I was going to say on Wicked. Well, I know. Yes. I was going to say on Wicked. I think if Wicked Part 1 had included any new songs, I'd be more convinced that adapted screenplay is on the table because they've actually done more acting and changing and stuff. Sounds like that's what they're doing in Part 2. So we'll see how Wicked Part 2 goes. But you've just brought up a very fun contender, so I'll let you talk about it.
Hitman!
Woo!
How cool would that be, right? Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to come back a little bit. I don't know if it's going to actually translate to the Oscars, but I don't think it's going to be a non-entity.
I mean, I think it could get that. It could get a Writers Guild nomination adapted, especially because a few things aren't eligible.
Linklater. And it would be a cool way to recognize Glenn Powell, who's popping off right now. If he doesn't quite make it in actor, why not give him a screenplay nomination?
I think it could get a Critics' Choice nom. I think it could get a Writers Guild nom. I think it's around.
Yeah. I almost put it in over Wicked and Emilia Perez. So, it's those three I'm kind of just throwing a dart at.
Yeah. It just becomes the question of, is it the Netflix adapted option that's the strongest?
I mean, I would like that very much.
I know. Because I at 7 have got The Piano Lesson.
Yeah, I mean that's in my list also. I don't really think it's a thing, but it's again most of these it's hard to pick. Like The Room Next Door is another one you can throw around.
If we haven't talked about actress and supporting actress, but if Deadweiler's going to get in for The Piano Lesson, I think she really needs a screenplay to go along with it.
I think she could get in without it, just on the basis of that category not being super deep. But
I mean, you haven't seen the movie. You should see the movie. Watch the movie.
I have Netflix. Netflix is cycling on my TV behind me this entire video.
So Piano Lesson is what I've got at 7. But yeah, look, outside adapted screenplay is a category that the top 3 was just so certain for me, and everything else went and some other stuff might get in.
Yeah, Room Next Door's floating around. Night Bitch kind of dead. Queer pretty dead, especially with Challenges as the option to nominate Koretsky's. I didn't even write that in. I'm still here. The Wild Robot, based on how much people love it, you would think would be a thing, but I just don't think it will be.
Wild Robot not showing up at the Astras, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, because those are the people who would do it.
Show up here. I don't think it's going to go. And again, you think about precursors. I don't think it's going to get WGA. I will say, I really liked the screenplay in Night Bitch, and it's personally in my top 5 at the moment.
I'm excited to see it. I'm sure Mario Heller does not miss, so I'm sure I will like it.
But yeah, it's not going to get an Oscar nom, which is a shame.
No. Anything else worth mentioning here?
No.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Ariana Grande fans come and sing my praises in the comments for putting Wicked in my 5. I swear it's just my genuine vibes-based pick and not a ploy to get people on side after I said I didn't like the movie. But that's it for this video. Stay tuned. We will be talking about acting awards and lots of other stuff very soon. Follow Mikey everywhere at Movie Mike Reviews on Instagram and on Awards Expert app and Letterboxd. That'll all be in the description. Thanks again for joining me, my friend. Subscribe. Check out my podcast, The Film Draft. That's where I do all of my stuff right now. And stay tuned. There'll be more coming very soon.
Skibbity.
Shut up.